Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachddanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our second episode of season 16, a very special guest and gratitude expert, Sammy Ferens. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Sammy, the floor is yours.
Hey, Dan, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So, uh, introduce myself. I'm just a simple guy.
Okay.
That's what we all want to say. But no, the reality is I've owned a construction company for 13 years. Prior military, I'm a veteran. And in most ways, I really do. I look at myself as just your common guy. I go to the store and wash my own car, and got 3 kids that are grown now, and that's the reason I'm half bald and I'm gray, and now I got 3 grandkids, so I love them more than the kids ever. But I just got into the world of gratitude a few years ago and became a life mission to show people how living a life of gratitude is truly so empowering, and it changes not just you, but it changes everyone around you. So my everybody always talks about their purpose or their mission. Mine is to show my grandsons that whatever dream they have in their life, that it is attainable and achievable, and gratitude's a huge reason why they can make that happen. So
So what prompted you, like when you became like a gratitude expert, like to preach it to the world? What really did you take things for granted before? Did you feel that the gratitude just came at a certain time in your life that you felt was a really crucial moment for you to realize that, hey, you know what? I'm not grateful. I need to change my attitude or my approach.
yeah, oh no, it was the most unfortunate time in my life, yet now it has become one of my most empowering moments. And that was holding my mom's hand when she passed away. In that moment, my mom had polio her whole life, and she was in a wheelchair. And I got a special night with her a few days before she passed away. And it was just me and her for the whole night. And we had conversations that night that were unlike any in my whole life with her. And what she really taught me that night was she, yeah, she lived her life in a wheelchair, and she never walked, and she didn't get to do so many things that we do take for granted every day. We don't think about that when we get out of bed. We should just be able to get up and walk and go to the refrigerator, and there's going to be food, and the what we would consider maybe simple things.
Mhm.
She truly appreciated that the life that God had granted her through having polio and not and having that disability. My true gratitude came holding her hand when she passed away, because in that moment, mom could walk, mom could run, she could do everything that she couldn't do here, and it was a life changing. Needless to say, as far as her being gone, but also just that gift that she gave me in that moment. And that with that power, it's like, you know what, man, I got to tell the world about this, because if this woman that could never walk had such an appreciation for her life, why don't we?
That is a very good point, actually. But is it only in moments of hardship that you could find gratitude? Can people just find gratitude just by not having to go through very difficult ordeals or challenges?
Well, I think we find the most gratitude in moments of extreme pain or sorrow, but the reality is gratitude's always around you. even in the little goofy moments in our life. When great example, my neighbor came over a few weeks ago, and 6 a.m. in the morning, and he says, "Hey man, my battery, I guess it's, my car won't start. Can you come give me a jump?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And I go outside and I said, "Well, man, do you just want me to give you a ride to work? You're going to be late." And, he said, "No, no." He said, "It'll be okay." And he turned around and he said, "Look at that sunrise." And he was just enamored with the sunrise and how beautiful it was. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, this guy's car is not starting. He knows he's going to get in trouble at work. He's going to lose money from not being at work. And all he cares about in this moment is how beautiful a sunrise is. That's gratitude. That's amazing. And it really touched me that day. And I talked to him later that evening, "Hey, is the car okay? Run okay?" "Yeah, yeah." And he went back into the sunrise. He goes, "Man," he said, "that sunrise this morning was, man, can you believe how beautiful that was?" And I'm sitting there thinking, how many of us would have let the car not start, and would have let the bad day, the way it started, ruin our whole day?
Mhm.
And instead, he let a beautiful sunrise encourage his whole day, have a positive effect on him the whole day. And I'm like, that's gratitude, that even in, not having a bad day.
That's
So,
And do you think that the ones who actually can be grateful for everything that surrounds them, is it by just practice or just avoiding a certain sense of reality due to the fact that, yeah, the sunshine is beautiful, the sunrise is beautiful, but there's still a problem that needs to be resolved. And not all problems can be resolved because of you being around and able to give him a job or taking him to work. Not everyone have that luxury. So what happened to those who do not have so many options as this person had that given morning?
well, it's always, life is 10% actions and 90% how we react. And the reaction is always our choice. I'm sure in that moment he went out to his car and went to start it and it didn't start. There was frustration, there was anger, there was, whatever it was, and negativity. But because he found gratitude so fast and he allowed that to be his reaction instead of the negativity, he was able to. And what it does is it actually helps you problem solve.
Mhm.
When you're frustrated and you're angry and whatever else, it's a lot harder to get a clear head to help overcome, whatever adversity is at that moment. Whereas, hey, you know what, man, it could be so much worse, or
Yes.
whatever that thought process is, and you go, eh, I well, what do we got to do to make this right? Bad stuff's still going to happen. I mean, there's no, that's part of life, but it's 90%. It's how you react to it. So
But do you feel that
yeah.
most people, Sammy, they function better in moment of stress, in moment of difficulties to be able to come up with greater solution or most logical solution than those who are relaxed and kind of like nonchalant about what's going on around them?
um say that again. I was kind
Yeah.
of confused on that one.
So, like if, for example, someone in an organization, if let's say the something is wrong is happening in a moment of stress, in a moment of anxiety, this is when they come up with greater solution for the benefit of the organization or whatever else. So when situation happens like that, do people function better in a difficult environment than in a very peaceful one?
I don't know if I'd say better. I would say more clearly. It's in moments of adversity, or something like that in business. I mean, again, I've had my own business for 13 years. In that stressful moment, it almost forces you to focus on, okay, what do we got to do to solve this?
Mhm.
You know, and when it comes to the actual solving part, am I going to get to the conclusion a lot easier from being angry, or am I going to get to that conclusion a lot easier being not happy, but more calm, more at peace with it, you know. we had a thing happen. Well, it's probably been 5 years ago, and literally done with the job. Everything's done. We were painting the house. The guy was outside cleaning up his buckets. He probably had about 1.5 gallons of paint in a bucket. He tripped, spilled the bucket. It went all over the outside of the house, all down the sidewalk, down into the street. And this guy's outside, and I'm inside. I was doing some stuff, and I hear him out there, and he was just that. He was angry, and I don't blame him. He was mad at himself. It happened. He's out there. He's hollering. He's screaming. He's cussing. And I went out there, and now I had a choice. I could be angry at him and with him, or I could say, "Hey, let's calm down. There's a hose right there. Let me run over and ask the neighbor if we can borrow their hose too. And dude, let's just start getting this cleaned up.
Mhm.
We'll be angry later.
Yeah.
We'll worry about it. But right now, let's focus on the solution. And the solution is getting this all cleaned up as fast as we can." And when it was all done, we literally went up, and he had got us a 6-pack of beer, and we sat on the tailgate and we were laughing about it. And he was laughing about the fact that he's like, "Man, I've never done," and this was a 30-year painter.
Mhm.
And he's like, "In 30 years, I've never done this. Oh my God, I can't believe it." And he said, "I guess I had to go through it at least once,
At least once, yes.
you know. And to me, that's we were really in that. Now, in that time in my life, I didn't understand gratitude, but I can look back now and go, that's what we were. We were grateful that we had a solution at that moment, somehow, some way. And instead of, we could have stood there and screamed and hollered and cussed, and nothing would have got solved, and it would have made a bigger mess, and we'd have spent days cleaning it up. It took us about hour and a half. We had it all cleaned up, and life went on. You know,
But this is because you looked at it with a different mindset, with a different perspective. If, let's say, you would have got angry, you'd have just fueled the situation for him to also feel more angry, more frustrated, and then that would have just been like a vicious cycle.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And unfortunately, that's a lot of times what happens, especially in business, between, say, management and employees. Something goes wrong, and next thing you know, there's a screaming match or whatever, and well, nothing got solved.
No,
You know,
the
can
ego,
I be angry? What's that?
ego got solved.
Oh, yeah. That's the truth.
So, for the listeners, what would you encourage, Sammy, when it comes to practicing gratitude? What are the few steps that you could advise people to not really focus too much on the things that they could not control versus the thing that they could control, like you mentioned about the 10% action and 90% reaction? Reaction you can control because these are internal emotion that you react towards external circumstances. But is there any other thing that you can help people kind of look at things with a different parallels?
Probably big thing I talk about a lot is, how do you talk to yourself? How do you see yourself? I'm a big proponent of get rid of the word can't. There's nothing. I'm 5'6", 200 pounds, 48 years old. Dr. Dan's going to have to help me, but I can slam a basketball.
Mhm.
You know, nothing's unachievable. And even just that mindset alone helps you strive for allowing yourself to be great. You know, uh, Forgive yourself for the past. It's gone. It's over. No matter what it was, no matter how bad it was, I helped a gentleman. Well, I guided. He did the work. He's a recovering drug addict. He did a lot of bad things. Was in and out of jail quite a few times. He has forgiven himself for all of his past. He's forgiven the people that are no longer with him. He's literally found peace with something that he cannot go back and change. He can't control it. There's nothing he could do except move forward. And in doing that, I am very proud of him, very proud to say he's in the high 6 figures now.
Mhm.
And he equates it all to being grateful for what he can control in his future, for what he For eliminate, he talks about it, eliminating the word can't.
Mhm.
He goes, well, his mindset was, well, I'm a convicted felon. I can't have a good job. I can't make money like that. Nobody wants me. And now he's out there doing it. And it was all a mind shift that he allowed himself to embrace his power. He forgave himself. He gave himself permission that he can do. And then he went and achieved it. He put in the work. He put in the time, and to me, that's three big steps: forgive yourself, allow yourself, and then go after it.
So, as you who practice gratitude, do you strongly believe in the laws of attraction, on how the thoughts become the thing that you dearly want in life? Because you mentioned something about the word can't. Now, of course, you're not going to ask someone who just graduated from high school, who didn't go to college, and ask him to build a spaceship to go to planet Mars. Now, the word can't has, of course, different connotation to it, because you cannot ask someone who doesn't have the right skill set to be able to perform a task, and then him telling himself, I cannot do that. Well, this is like somewhat logical that he could not build that spaceship. So the word can't, is it based on each and everyone's skills and potential, or you're actually asking someone to do something that is completely out of their realm of expertise?
See, I would go. So if I needed a rocket, and say, we'll just throw out a scenario. So I don't have no arms. And I say, you know what, Dr. Dan, can you build me a rocket? Your initial thing is going to say, I can't, you know. But if I just switch it and I go, hey, Dr. Dan, can you build me a rocket in 5 years? Well, you can if you're willing to put in the work, learn how to do it, and do it. So can't is gone. I can. It's going to take me 5 years, but so I can. And to me, that's the feasibly, yeah, there's going to be certain things that we just can't, but for the biggest part, it's eliminating even the most simple things, just the mindset. Like me, I grew up poor. So it's for me to, as I was younger, for me to even think that I can be a millionaire, I can have a Lamborghini, I can, that was never a thought. That wouldn't, I didn't even grow up. I never seen a Lamborghini until I was probably 28, you
Yeah.
know, and so that was just not my world. So of course that word can't, if somebody would say that, that was just a dream. That was just something like unfathomable. But now as I've grown older and I've really learned what it means to say you can, somebody did it. So why can't I? Some other poor kid out there, grew up in a home with a disabled family, or as we all did, probably a dysfunctional family. They're still achieving their dreams. And it's not always about money. It's about just living a better life, living, I know a gentleman that lives on Kentucky Lake right now. He makes $17 an hour. Got him a little John boat, got him a little house right there on the lake. That is the happiest man I know in my life. It's not about money. It's about he found his peace, and he's so grateful for what he does have, and it's all his. It's everything's. He tells me everything's paid for. It's all mine. Good, dude. That's awesome. Man, riches. If we look at riches in our life, and gifts, it it always comes from in here. It comes from your thoughts and what you really want out of life. It doesn't always have to be monetary.
That's true.
But don't get me wrong, I like money.
I think everyone does. But then, do you think there's a direct correlation between reaching or achieving happiness and being grateful? So those who actually are grateful will automatically be happy, but those who are unhappy doesn't mean that they are actually ungrateful. Do you think there's a direct correlation between both?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do. Happiness, to me comes in those times when gratitude's harder to find.
Okay.
You know, if you can find happiness like me, hold my mom's hand. I wasn't happy about the moment that it was happening, but I was so grateful for what was being allowed to, for her to walk and, run and do things. So the happiness was there, but it was more of the gratitude of the moment, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, actually. It does. So it's like one is the result of the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, and it can be a correlation of how much happiness or how much gratitude, you know. For me, it's, for me, it's just allowing yourself to be grateful. And in doing that, it's placing yourself first. And when I talk about this, the big pushback I get is, well, that's selfish.
Mhm.
And I say, good, be selfish. Because if you're full of happiness and joy and love and gratitude, then that's that much more that you can give out to everybody else. And it's that gratitude for the unknown people in our life. That's something that, again, most of us, we don't think about. We don't even, when you go to a fast food restaurant or any restaurant, you think of a transaction. I'm going to order a Happy Meal and I get my Happy Meal and transaction's over.
Mhm.
But the reality is that transaction just fed the cashier and her family. It just helped the cook in the back pay his bills.
Mhm.
The people that delivered it, driving the truck, I mean, you just helped their family eat that week. Like, there's so many people, whoever built that building, that little McDonald's or Hardee's or whatever it is, you just made sure they had work, you know. And when I tell that to people, they go, well, Sammy, but it's such a little, like, it's minute, it's nothing. And I go, I don't care how small it is, it's still a step forward. It's still something to be so grateful for. You ordering that Happy Meal fed 30 families.
That is
Man, how powerful are you?
extremely,
Yeah.
yeah, just with this one action. But then here's the biggest challenge that the new generation, Sammy, is experiencing at this moment is the concept of gratitude is much and much harder to reach due to the fact that because of social media and everyone who has the tendency to compare themselves with influencers or those who are actually gloating about their wealth, about how look at my new jet or my new Lamborghini or my new mansion or this and that. So people can never really be grateful with what they have because they always have the tendency to compare themselves to others who are on social media. So how can you fight that, or how can you tell people just detach yourself from this environment, because what you see on social media is actually fake? So they're actually faking their so-called wealth just to be
Yeah.
able to make you feel less worthy.
Boy, that's a rough one. And here's why. The phones, the whole internet thing, what it did to our world is it made it blow up. It made it so much bigger. Our world has become uh 10,000 times bigger than it was whenever me and you, for say, before the internet boom. Two kids back in our day, two kids getting a fight at school, and there's 10 or 12 people standing around, and whoever loses, okay, they get teased and maybe prodded at a little bit by 10 or 12 people. Now two kids get in a fight,
The whole world knows.
10 million people know about it. They see the videos on it, and then it's how can we make that world go back to be a little smaller? And honestly, the only way to do that is to get off of social media, to allow yourself to I don't need to be on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and all these places to get my validation. Because at the end of the day, this is the hardest lesson. You got to validate yourself first,
Mhm.
you know. And that validation for me through gratitude comes in accepting that you can be first in your life, that you're the only validation you need. and to understand, just like the story of the fast food, how powerful you truly are. And when I say you're the gift to the world, unless you laid in your bed and did nothing all day, you changed the world.
Mhm.
If you went out on the road and drove today, you changed the flow of traffic. You did something to change somebody else's life. That is powerful. That is huge. But it's something that we overlook. We don't think about. We don't accept that kind of power because, well, that's just Sammy, that's wish-wash.
Yeah.
No, dude, that's grab it, embrace it, and go, man, look at me. And but yeah, that's a hard one. It's to help is allowing people to empower themselves and put themselves first, because we're always taught that you're not supposed to be first.
Mhm. That's
You
true.
know,
By putting ourselves second, we actually allow, because no one wants to be seen as selfish. They want to be seen as selfless. And because of that, because this is what society kind of like trained our mind to be. Because or else, oh, look, if he's selfish, he has a big ego. If he has a big ego, he's a narcissistic or whatever it is. And that kind of create this sense of like, oh, I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. But I think by paying it forward, which is, as you mentioned, that you can actually do good in society without really thinking too much about it, but also just going with the flow. And going with the flow requires you to be able to do a lot of good action or good deeds to be able to feel better about yourself. But then, are we doing good deeds because we want to feel good about ourselves, or we do it without any ulterior motive?
to me, that's a true person that is selfless, has no expectations. They live their life to help and serve others with no expectation. I don't expect anything back. You know, if you're we hear about it in like when somebody goes through the drive-through. Oh, I'll pay for the person behind me. You do it because you're just being nice and kind. You're not doing it because, well, I expect somebody to do this for me. You know, to me, live your life with no expectations, but go for the achievement of living your best life. And it's gratitude.
And that is beautiful to conclude this kind of podcast. Well, on that note, Sammy, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. Now, we hope that you've all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 16 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listened today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Gratitude is a transformative force that brings joy and positivity to our life. It reminds us to appreciate the blessing we have, and we often overlook and find happiness in simple moments. By cultivating gratitude, we shift our focus from scarcity to abundance and develop a new perspective on life challenges. Expressing this positive emotion by uplifting others and inspiring kindness and compassion, it opens our heart and minds to new possibility, helping us embrace change and learn from everyone's experience. Gratitude also fosters unity, collaboration, and understanding among diverse individuals. Let us cultivate it, count our blessing, and spread positivity through our thoughts, words, and action. By embracing gratitude, we can bring joy, love, and abundance into our lives and make a positive impact on others. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in